Okay, I think it should be all right now. So, hello everyone. My name is Jacob. Welcome to the third workshop in the Language Documentation Training Center and Endangered Languages Program Project Workshop Series. Today we are going to be talking about audio and video recording, but just so we can give everyone a chance to join and don't leave anybody behind, let's take a couple of minutes, and if anybody wants to post in the comments about where you're from, where you're watching from, what kind of things you're interested in, and what languages you speak, that would be great. And we can just get a sense of who's tuning in for this workshop. So I'll introduce myself again once we really get started, but just a little bit about me. My name is Jacob Hakim. I'm a second-year master's student here at the University of Hawaii, and I don't have a specific field of study right now besides language documentation, but I am interested in studying the languages of Indonesia and of the Ryukyus, the islands of South Japan. Welcome, Joshua. Yeah, good to have you on the feed. Yeah, so we'll just wait a moment so we can get everybody watching. And today we're going to be talking about audio and video recording, the reasons why we should do it, the best ways to go about it, some equipment that might be helpful, and the reason that we do certain things while we're recording to make it easier for us to use that data later for things like making educational materials or archiving, right? And so we'll just hang tight for just a moment. Also, if anybody wants to, during the slideshow, I'll be referencing a couple of documents that are included in the, are they on the Facebook group?
I'll be sharing them.
Okay, so we're going to share these documents afterwards, so don't follow along during the thing. But we will have a list of useful software to use when processing video and audio data, and we'll also have a short guide to audio and video recorders. Very superficial. But if you have any questions about these things, feel free to ask. And for things like audio and video recording equipment or software, it's of course very helpful to just Google or YouTube tutorials. Okay? All right, so people are still joining. Is anybody else having trouble hearing the audio? Yeah, so let me know if there's any other issues with the sound, but it seems to be working. But we'll make sure that everybody can hear and participate before we move on. Yeah, so just let us know if there's any issues. Awesome. All right, great. So we have some people tuning in from Philippines and from Indonesia. Welcome. I think it's about time to get started. So thank you for joining us. So again, my name is Jacob Hakim. I am a student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I study linguistics. And today is the third workshop as part of the Language Documentation Training Center and Endangered Languages Project workshop series. And today we are going to talk about audio and video recording, okay? So, oops. Yeah, first I want to talk about audio recording, right? So what is the significance of recording audio in linguistics? Why do we want to make sure to record audio when we're working with languages, endangered languages? The main reason is that for spoken languages, audio is the mode of communication, right? So in order to record the information in that language, the best way is by making an audio recording. It's all right to write it down, but when you write down a language, you might lose a lot of information. So to hear the language itself is the best for multiple reasons, right? So maybe for linguistic analysis, to learn something about the language, about its particular features in syntax or sounds, but also for teaching. If you have these audio recordings, then you can use these to teach new speakers of the language, right? With the raw audio of the speakers, right? And also when you have audio recordings, it gives you a chance to preserve the language, right? When you have these recordings, you can store them, and then the language survives. And it also can be used to help people to learn the language again, right? All right. So it makes a lot of sense why we want to record audio when studying language, but it might be harder to understand why we want to record video. But it's also important to record video because visual information is very important in understanding language, right? So when somebody is talking, they are not just making the sounds and not moving any other part of their body, right? There's facial expressions. You can see somebody's mouth, right? That kind of can help you understand. We might be speaking with gestures, which will help somebody who's studying the language understand how the speaker is thinking about the language in their brain, right? You can also see it in context. You can see the situation the language is being used in. And another very important thing is that videos are interesting. And especially for things like teaching, it would be very interesting to watch somebody speak instead of just listening to them speak. So the most important aspect of documentation is the audio recording, but very important also is video. Yeah? I see that more people are tuning in. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, we are just getting started. So a very important thing to think about when you're going to make a recording of a language. Very important. The first thing to think about is the recording environment, okay? Which is, where are you going to record? What kind of place it is, right? So most of the time, when you want to record a language, it's not going to be a perfect situation, right? So there might be noise, and that might make it difficult to hear the audio recording. Or there might be bright lights everywhere, which makes it hard for the camera to see, right? But if you are aware of these problems in advance, then you can deal with them as best you can in that situation, right? So it's good to think about these things so that when it comes time to make a recording, you're ready to deal with some of the issues that might come up. But it's also very important to realize and think about from the beginning that you won't be able to make it perfect. So there's no need to be frustrated if there is still an issue. But we should do our best to make the quality of the audio recording and the video recording the best we can, right? So the worst thing for audio recordings is background noise, all right? So if we are sitting down to record somebody who's going to tell a story, or we're going to record a conversation, we want to be able to hear it clearly, right? For our own ears and for analysis, if we're going to use this recording for linguistic analysis, we want to be able to hear it clearly. That's the most important thing. So any loud noise will keep us from understanding when we go back to listen to it again, right? So these are things that are really commonly loud in audio recordings, and they're things which we maybe won't think about when we try to pick our recording environment, because these are things that are always in our lives, and so we are used to the sounds and we don't think of it as very loud. So something like an electronic fan or a ceiling fan. These are everywhere, and it's very normal to have them on, and we don't really think about the sound, but the microphone and the recorder will pick up the noise of the fan, and it might make it harder to hear. People running around in the background, talking or laughing or yelling, that's also very normal, but it's better to do a recording away from that kind of setting if possible, just so it's clearer. Things like animals, right, or cell phones going off, cell phones ringing or buzzing, those will be very distracting and very loud. One thing that we maybe can't hear at all, that we would be able to hear it on the recording, is electrical appliances, so refrigerator or television, things like that, that might make a really quiet buzzing that we can't hear with our ears, but we'd be able to hear it in the recording. So just be careful of things like this. Try not to eat crunchy snacks or crunchy foods while recording. It's better probably if the speaker is not eating, but definitely not something really crunchy, because that'll really hurt your ears when you're listening to it. And then if somebody is tapping on the table or doing something like that, they might not be thinking about it, but it's all right to say recording, maybe it's better not to tap on the table, right? And then, of course, traffic can be very loud, and this is a really common thing that people have issues with, right? So we want to think about what is the best possible environment to record the speech event, right? The story or whatever it is. So what this slide means by soft room is a room that doesn't have maybe stone or tile walls. It has curtain or carpet or a soft material on the ground. And the reason is because a room that has, tile and exposed windows and hard walls, the voice will echo and bounce around the room, and this will make the recording harder to understand, right? So a room that doesn't have an echo is much better for recording. Yeah, so it's also very important that the room is quiet, right? If it's noisy, that's the worst thing for the recording, which we just talked about. So yeah, try to go somewhere that's a little bit isolated and more quiet. All right, yes, windows closed so that outdoor noise does not come in. And we talked about fans and appliances and other people, right? So when you're going to record, it's better to go somewhere secluded, somewhere quiet, if possible, right? But of course, we know that this will not always happen, and that's okay. Now I want to talk about video a little bit and how to make a video recording that is the most useful and the most beautiful, right? So with video, we want it to be clear to see, right? And that includes a few things. So the first thing we want to think about is how we're going to set up the camera, okay? And it should be on a tripod, right? So it's not moving around. It should be stable, okay? And it should be pointed at the speaker or speakers, ideally so that it shows their face, their head, their upper body, and their arms, okay? So this is a good position for me to be in so that I'm talking and you can see my gestures, right? And it should be a little bit lower, maybe like this even, so that you can see my body, right? Yeah. So before you start recording, make sure that it's focused so it's not blurry. And while it's recording, it's better not to move the camera at all, not to zoom, not to move it around the room, right? So once you have a good spot where you can see the speakers and it's clear, you want to leave it there for the whole session, okay? Yeah, so these are some examples of bad framing, right? So in this picture, you can see that the speaker is off to the side and part of her face is cut off, right? So there's an empty seat which we don't need to see, and we can't really see her. In this one, it might look okay, but the camera is above her, so everything's a little bit distorted. There's a shadow on her face, and you can't really see what she is doing, right? it's harder to see and it doesn't look as good. And then in this one, the camera is too far away, her side is cut off, and yes, there's distracting things in the background, right? So here's an example of good framing, right? So the speaker is right in the middle. There's room for her to move her arms around, and it would be clearly visible. And you can see her clearly in the middle, right? And it's straight on, not from above or below. This is an example of good framing. So when you set up the camera, you want it to look something like this. Okay? Yes, and here's an example with two speakers, right? So in this, you can see both of them within the frame. It's directly head on, okay? You can see their faces even when they're turned, and you can see their gestures. This picture is a little bit cut off on the side, so if possible, you want to get even more room around them without moving too far away, right? So this is pretty good, but you can see that it's a little bit cut off. So yeah, I think you are starting to see what kind of picture we want to make. Okay, just looking at the chat and seeing all the people who have joined. Yeah, thank you for watching. Okay, so another important thing to think about when making a video recording is the lighting, okay? Because if the lighting is not good, then you won't be able to see anything and the video will be hard to use and hard to understand. So one thing that's very important is not to have a bright light behind the speaker, okay? Because it can make it very hard to see. So if I move so that this is behind me, you can see now that since there's a bright light behind me, you can't see me at all. I've basically become a shadow, right? And so this is what happens if you point the camera at the speaker. You might say, oh, it's bright, so it's better to see them. But actually, it's better to face to the opposite, right? So now the light is shining on me, and you can see me even more clearly than when the computer is on the desk, right? So yes, don't point the camera directly at a bright light or window, because yeah, you won't be able to see. If there are lights above that are really bright and put a shadow on the speaker's face, that can also be very distracting, okay? So it's best if the light is shining from behind the camera, right? And I know that this is hard to control, but these are just things to think about when setting up in a room, okay? Yeah, so if you have your own lights, you can set them up, but this is not very common and it can be really bright. So just, yeah, whatever is best for your situation. If it's very dark, of course, it's better to have a lamp or a light, something that you know, will allow you to see the speaker. So this next part is about white balance. Okay, so this is just something that helps the camera to capture colors accurately, right? So when we see things with our eyes, the color of the objects will change depending on how bright it is, what kind of light is shining on it, but our brains can automatically adjust so we see the same colors no matter what. But a camera cannot do that on its own. So a lot of cameras have a setting called white balance, where you put something white in front of it and then it learns, okay, this is white, and then it makes all the colors normal. Otherwise, it might come out that the video is showing yellow where there's white, which is not the worst thing, but it's better to have a high quality video so that people can enjoy watching it, especially if you want to use it to teach people, to tell a story, something like that. Then it would be nice for the video to be beautiful, right? To look great and clear. So while it's most important to be able to see in the first place, it's also important to make sure that the quality is good, right? So here's another example of somebody who was filmed with the light directly behind them, and you can see that you cannot see the face at all. It's totally blocked, right? And here's an example of somebody who does not have a bright light behind them. Okay, the lighting is pretty good. It's not perfect because you can see there is some shadows, right? But it's pretty clear. You can see his face. You can see her face and her gestures. They're smiling, right? They're talking. So this is the kind of lighting that you want, right? No bright lights in the background, but also no shadows, right? And this can be difficult to achieve when you're making a recording, but yes, it's also important not to get frustrated when there are issues, right? So just to do the best you can in your situation, but remember that making the recording is the most important thing. And a recording that has audio or video issues is still better than no recording at all, okay? But if you have the chance, you should try and make it as good as you can. Okay, so when we talk about recording audio, there is certain equipment that you can use that will make it better quality, right? So, of course, not everybody will have access to this equipment. So it is not absolutely necessary to use these, but if you can, it is better, all right? So this is called an audio recorder. We have a couple here. So these things are called audio recorders, all right? They have built-in microphones, and they record the audio at very high quality. And the reason that, if it's possible, you want to use something like this instead of using a computer or a cell phone, or just the camera, right? So for the camera is usually pretty far from the speakers. So the audio is very quiet if you just record on the camera. And you're going to miss a lot of things, and you won't be able to hear it, right? And also, with the camera microphone, it's going to record everything in front of it, which means any noise from anywhere in the room will be in the recording. So it's not going to be very clear. But if you have something like this, it can be right in front of the speaker, right? Like this, you can just put it on the table. And this will be a lot closer to the speaker, and it'll be a lot clearer. But you can also do that with a phone, right? So what is the reason that we want to use this instead of a phone? Well, when you record audio with a phone, it is programmed to make the data as small as possible, right? So when you record it, it's going to crunch down the file to be really small. And when it does that, it deletes a lot of very important linguistic information. Yeah, so it can be good if you don't have another option, but it also is not the highest quality, right? So what will happen is you have a recording, and maybe it sounds good, which if that's very important, right? But if you go back to do some analysis, you might be missing information that would be very helpful or even necessary, right, to do the analysis. Okay? But at the same time, it is good to have a video camera microphone that's pointing, right? So we shouldn't turn it off. We should still have it, but just it's also great to have another recording device closer to the speakers, okay? Whether that's a phone or a digital audio recorder, okay? And if you have two different recorders, so say that I have my camera here, and I have my audio recorder or my cell phone here, and I turn them both on. I start recording. Something that's very important for later is to do something called slating, okay? And that's so that I can make it easy for me to line up my audio and my video, okay? So to slate, you just go in front of the camera and the microphone, and you can do something like this, okay? And what that does is it makes a clear video signal where I can see when I'm clapping, and it makes a loud noise that when I look at the audio file, I can line it up easily. Or sometimes the computer can do it automatically, right? So if you don't have to do that if you only have one recorder. But if you're doing more than one recording at once, you want to do this so you can line them up later, okay? Yeah, so this is what the slate looks like when you're looking at audio waves, all right? So this is the waveform or the audio recording. And you can see that from the clapping, there are 3 spikes, all right? And one of them, the top one, is the microphone from my camera, okay? And it recorded these 3 spikes far away. And then the phone was closer to me, and so they're a bit louder. But if I line them up, then I have my audio and my video synchronized, right? And it's easier for me to store, and it's easier to analyze with the video and the high quality recording together. Okay? Yes, so there will be a list that will be posted to the group after this presentation that has a lot of information about audio and video recorders, right? So here's an example of one. This is called a task cam. It's backwards because of my camera, but don't worry too much about that. So basically it has these two microphones, and it's designed to do high quality audio recording. And yes, like I was saying, it's better than the phone, but if you don't have any other option, the phone is better than nothing, right? This is another example of a video recorder. So it can be any kind of camera, right? It can be something like this. There are some kinds of audio recorders that have cameras. It can be any kind of video camera. And what you want to do is you want to set it on a tripod, right? So I don't want to hold it, because if I hold the video while somebody is speaking, then it's moving around and it's not going to be clear, right? And so, yes, so you want to use something like these to do high quality language documentation. Oh yeah, so we have an example of a tripod, right? So a tripod is just something like this. It's basically like a stand that you put the camera on, and it really increases the quality of the video when the camera is still sitting on a tripod, not moving, right? Because it can be very distracting when the video is moving all around. Okay? So after you make video and audio, it's very important to edit them, right? So that they can be used for analysis or to be archived, right? So that's the most important thing here, is that you want to be able to prepare these files to be archived. And what that means is that they're going to be stored forever, essentially. That's the goal, right? Is to store information from all of these languages so that they can be accessed by anybody, right? And you guys are going to talk more about archiving next week. The next workshop is about metadata and archiving. And metadata just means information about the recordings, right? So we talked about synchronizing the video and audio with the slates. And there's a lot of free software you can use that will do that. So there's a list here for the video. If you want to do transcription of the audio and video, which is writing down the words of the speaker in a way that's aligned with the video, most of the time the video has to be in a certain file format, okay? So if your camera records in a certain format, you might have to convert it to MP4, which is the usual high quality video type that we use for analysis, right? So there are also free programs that do this, like Handbrake is the one that we usually use. And it might look really difficult when you open it, but if you want to do this and you have the software, you can just look up Handbrake tutorial or Handbrake convert video, something like that, because there's some really good instructional videos out there. Okay? Right, so we talked about how it's better to have a dedicated recorder rather than just using a phone or computer, because it cuts off some of the frequencies, right? It deletes some important information. And another important reason that we might not think about is that these are big machines, right? And they create noise, electronic noise. And so if you make a recording using your computer or your phone, it might have a buzzing that you can't hear with your ears, but it's coming from inside the computer, right? Yeah, so if you can, it's better to use the highest quality device. Another kind of recorder that we have, but microphone, is this headset microphone, right? So this is really, really good if you can. And these work, well, it's a bit tangled. So the way this works is I would wear it on my head, and the microphone will be here right by my mouth. So it's only recording sounds from my speech, right? This is the best kind of recording if we want to get a really close recording of one speaker, right? And so if you have multiple headsets, you can put it on multiple speakers. But there's also something called a lapel mic or a lavalier mic. So basically, that's a tiny microphone that you can clip on your shirt, and it does something very similar to the headset mic. And you can plug this into your recorder. But if you don't have a recorder, you can also plug this into your phone, and that might be the next best option, right? Okay, so now we're getting into how to record, right? So we've talked about the ways to set up your recording, where it should be, what kind of equipment you might want to use, and now it's also important to have a structure for your recording session, right? So if it's really last minute, sometimes you might just turn on the microphone or the recorder, and then the conversation is already happening, or somebody's already singing a song, and you can't do something like this, right? That's okay, and that happens a lot. But if you are having a structured session where you've asked somebody to sit down with you, or you're meeting with somebody, or you're with a group of people, what you want to do is you want to get everything set up, have your camera and your audio set up. The first thing you do is, if you have multiple recorders, is you do the slate, right? And then the next thing you do is you say the information about the recording, right, with your voice, so that it's recorded there, and when somebody listens to it, then they know what's happening, right? So something you might say is the date, who is involved, where you are, what kind of recording, and then you can say what the goal of the session is. So if I'm making a video, it might not be of me, but of anybody. But when I start recording, here's a sort of example. So I turn it on. All right, today is February 9th, 2019. My name is Jacob Hakim. I am in the linguistics department at the University of Hawaii, Honolulu. And today we're going to be recording a song about anything, right? A song about a myth, or a song about working, right? Or we're going to record a story, okay? So, and then once you've said all of that, then you can just start, right? And what this does is it's really helpful for somebody who is going through all the recordings in the archive, but they don't know exactly what's on each one. And when they listen to the first 10 seconds, then they can hear, oh yeah, this is what I'm looking for, or okay, I don't need to hear this one, right? So it helps you know what's in each file. Okay. So we talked about phones and computers and audio recorders, but there are some things you can do if you're going to record using a phone. Okay, so there's some best practices basically that will make it a better recording, because though it might not be as good as the audio recorder recording, it still can be pretty good, right? And there are things that can make it worse, so you got to make sure not to do it, right? So when you start, you want to take the phone and you want to put it right in front of the speaker, right? So that it's picking up their voice clearly. You don't want to put it across the room because you won't be able to hear it when you go back and listen, okay? Another great thing to do is just to do a really quick practice. So you can put it in front of the speaker and you can say, hey, what did you have for breakfast? Or how is the weather today? Or tell me about your favorite game, something, anything. And they tell you for 1 minute, and then you say thank you. You stop recording, you put in headphones, and you see, was that okay? And if it wasn't loud enough, you can put it closer. Or if there's a lot of noise, you can work on that. So this is a really good way to test if it's going to sound good, okay? If you can, you want to put it on something soft, because if it's on a table, it could bounce around. You never know. And that will really be loud, right, since the microphone is in the phone. And then the last thing that is really, really important if you're recording with a phone is to make sure that it can't receive any calls or texts. Because if somebody is talking and somebody sends a message to you, and in the middle of the conversation you hear, you're not going to be able to hear anything that somebody said right at that moment. And that can make it very difficult to understand what the person said, right? So yeah, make sure that you can't get a call, because the worst thing that I've seen happen is that you've made 1 hour of recording, and then at some point during the recording, somebody called the phone and the recording was totally deleted. Just, it was gone, right? So yeah, it can really, and then there's no data for the session, right? So you have to really be careful. But if you do these things, then the phone recording can be pretty good. Okay, so just some things to summarize the information in case you missed it earlier, or just to bring it all together. Yeah, making a high quality recording of both audio and video is very important for language documentation and for linguistic analysis, right? Not only for analysis, but for education, okay? Or just for preservation, right? To have a record of this language, a record of these conversations, right? For people to listen to later, for linguists to listen to, for native speakers to listen to, right? There's so many uses, but if the recordings are not high quality, then the uses are much more limited, right? So we want it to be the best quality that we can manage, okay? When you're making an audio recording, try to record it as a wave, okay? .wave. And the reason for that is that this is the one that is the highest quality, right? If you can't do this, like we said, it's much better to have a lower quality recording than to have no recording, right? If you're going to do audio recording, make sure to try to limit background noise, okay? Yeah, this is the thing that can make a recording worse, even if it's a high quality recorder and a high quality file type. You know, the noise can make it unlistenable, right? You won't be able to hear it, or it's too loud to listen to. So that's a really important step, okay? So the steps when you're going to record is to start the recording by pressing the record button on the phone or the recorder. You want to make sure that it's not too loud. Okay, so that's another thing. If you're using one of these and the recording levels are too high, so this is one where you use these buttons to change the levels. And that just means the level of loudness that it's going to be recording. It's different than the volume, okay? So if the level is too high, actually it can't record such loud sound, so it'll make it sound worse. So you got to make sure it's somewhere in the middle. And then once you've got that to a good point where it's not too loud, not too quiet, you start the recording by slating, and then you read out the metadata, like I was saying, which is things like the location, the date, the people who are going to be involved in the recording, and the description, right? So yeah, these are the main steps for making a useful, high-quality audio recording, okay? And in addition to the audio, it would be very good to record video, right, for multiple reasons, okay? Because gestures are interesting. Seeing the person is interesting, right? Watching somebody tell a story is more interesting than just hearing somebody tell a story, right? Yeah, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Make sure that you are not pointing the camera at a bright light. Make sure that it's focused and that it's a good angle, right? Because if we're going to watch a video, we want it to be good quality so that it's enjoyable, interesting, and useful, right? And then another thing we haven't talked about yet is that we want to make sure that we immediately save video and audio recordings to a computer, right? Because if we leave it on the camera for a long time, it could get lost. It could be deleted, right? Sometimes cameras are broken and then you lose all the data on them. So if possible, you want to save it somewhere else where it'll be safe, okay? Right, so for next time, the next workshop, since we're going to be presenting about metadata, right? The things I was telling you about, the information about the recording. And we're going to be presenting about archiving. If you want to do a sort of hands-on exercise where you can practice doing those things, then it would be good first to make a recording, right? So you can practice preparing it for archiving. So if you want, you can make a video and audio recording, right? So you can test out the slating, the metadata, your framing, and you can do it on anything in your languages, right? You can tell a story, or you can sing a song. You can do a Swadesh word list, right? Which is, if you weren't here for the last one, it's a short list of basic words which are common to lots of languages, right? So that's just a good way to get started in language documentation. It can be a conversation between speakers or any other use of language. But if you want to have some files to work with next week, then this is a good project to get started on. Okay. Yeah, so for next week, I'm not really sure about this. Do you want to talk about this? So this is after the next workshop?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. So this is something for the next workshop, but if you're going to make video and audio files, yeah, so please upload your recordings and the information about the recordings to a folder that's listed in this slide, and they will be posted if you want them to be onto the YouTube channel, right? So that we can have a list of all the work that you guys have done, and we can see the different kinds of videos you've made, right? But make sure you have a saved copy on your own computer, right? Okay. Yeah, so next week the workshop will be about metadata, this information regarding whatever we're recording. File management, so how to name files on the computer. This is basically after you record, how to keep everything organized so you don't get confused or get your recordings mixed up or lose things. And archiving, which is the long-term preservation of the recordings, right, and of the languages. All right, so that brings us to the end of this presentation. So now I want to open it up if anybody has questions. I have the chat list right here. So yeah, please send in your questions and we can talk about anything you want, if it's related to video and audio recording or if it's related to language documentation. All right. So let's see. Yeah, Pablo says the best thing is that it's motivating him to try and document his mother tongue. Yeah, great. That is the goal of this workshop series, right? Teach people these methods that anybody can use to try and make a documentation of the language, right? All right. Emma says, my team and I are having this challenge. After annotating our signed language files, the captions don't play on the video. Yeah, so that's about subtitling, right? Yeah, I'm not really sure about subtitling, but it depends on how you're annotating. Is it with Elan? But I think you have to take those annotations and use a subtitling software to put them on the video. Yeah. Yeah, so there will be a tutorial posted. I don't know if you guys could hear it, but on the page there will be a short tutorial about doing subtitles. Yeah. Adi says, being a linguist, it's your right to save indigenous language and region. Hope we will support you. Thank you. Yeah, so our goal is to help people document their languages, right? So, of course, there's so many languages around the world. So that is why we're seeing this, and that is why we want to do workshops like this, so that not only linguists, but anybody who wants to can have the skills to document the language, right? Yeah, awesome. Comment from a circle of indigenous peoples. Uploading the audio video recordings to the storage. Is this a collaboration with the University of Hawaii? Yeah, right, so this is just us practicing the whole process of archiving, from the first recording through the management, through the processing and editing of the videos and audio to the archiving, right? So yes, this is a collaboration we want to do with you guys, not only to make this record that will be public and open to anybody to use, but also so that you will have the experience of going through each step of that process, right? Yeah, thank you for the question. Okay, one thing I'm concerned about is how to make the people being recorded feel good. Yeah, that's something that I did not talk about at all in this presentation, right? That is very important. So if you're pointing a camera at someone and a microphone, it can be very uncomfortable. So of course, it's very important to try to help the speakers relax, okay? And that's the best way to do that is if you know them a little bit, right? So instead of just walking up to someone that you've never met and saying, wow, you speak this language, I want to record it. Can you sit there? I'll point my camera and you can talk. They're going to say, oh, wow, I don't know. But if you spend some time talking to them, you tell them about your project, you tell them why you want to record it, you talk about anything, something else, you know, you have tea, you have coffee, you have a snack together, right? This will make them feel more comfortable. And then after that, after you know each other a little better, you can set it up, right? And yeah, I know it can be a little bit uncomfortable to go and be on the spot alone in another room, but I think if you are friendly with the speakers and you get to know them a little bit, then you can make them more comfortable. Also, if you are there with them, sometimes that can make them more comfortable. Or if they don't want you to be, you can leave, right? Sometimes some people don't want to be watched. So you can say, all right, the recording is on, I'll come back later, right? That's another way you can do it. Can you name a good video camera brand? Yeah, so there are a lot, okay? So there's one brand that makes video cameras that have a good audio recorder built in. It's called Zoom, okay? The Zoom video cameras are pretty good at video and audio, so that's a good combination. For other video cameras, yeah, there are all kinds. I'm hesitant to recommend a specific one. The one that we have here is called Canon, and that works great. But really, any video camera that looks good, that you can use to make a good video will be fine. Yeah. Even the camera on a phone sometimes can be pretty good, right? Especially if you don't have another camera. Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for sticking around and asking questions. So if there are any other questions, please let me know. We still have a few more minutes. So yeah, we can basically stay until there are no more questions. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope that this presentation was clear and helpful, and that these are some practices that you can use in your own recordings. Yeah. So if you have any questions about the presentation itself, also, if there was something that was not clear or confusing, please let me know, and I'd be happy to answer questions about that too. Do you have anything, Leah? Oh yes, I see. Professionally, would you feel while interviewing a guest speaker, is it best to sit in front of the speaker or beside them? I think, yeah, so if it's an interview, I think it would be best to be sitting, both of you, in the camera for language documentation video. I know in things like documentaries or television, a lot of the time the interviewer is behind the camera and the person who's being interviewed is in front of it. But the way that I've learned so that the whole conversation can be recorded, basically, so that both speakers, right, the interviewer and the interviewee, are clearly in the video, and so that the person is not so alone on the spot. It's better to sit together. Yeah, maybe something like, there was a slide a little bit far back. The one where it had the two speakers sitting together. That's a good example of, yeah, so this is how you might want to set it up for an interview, where one person is asking the questions and the other person is answering. So you're both, you're both clearly visible. Yes, thank you everybody for watching. It's really great that everybody is interested in language documentation, and of course we're happy to answer questions at any time. And again, for people who might not have heard at the beginning, this is a weekly broadcast, and next week we're going to be doing metadata and file management, as well as archiving, right? So learning about what we can do with our audio and video to make it the most useful, right? To make it clear and usable for analysis, and also for people to be able to watch it, right? For accessibility. We want people to be able to access, right? So we'll talk about things like that next week. What about recording multiple speakers, as in while in a talking circle? Yeah, so if we're sitting in a circle, that's very difficult for a video. The best thing that you could do is ask if people are willing to sit in more of a half circle. And if it's important to be in the circle, then the video could be on the side, so that some people will have their backs to the camera, but not everybody, right? Because that's still better than nothing. And the audio recorder should be in the middle. If it's a really big circle and you want to record the whole thing, then probably it's best to have multiple of everything, right? You can have different cameras pointing different ways. If you only have one camera, that's okay. But at least different recorders and microphones, right? Because if there's a lot of speakers in a big space, if you just have one recorder in the middle, definitely, especially if multiple people are talking at once, that'll be really hard to hear. But if you have them across from each other on different parts of the circle, even if people are talking at the same time, you still have a clearer recording on one side and the other. Yes, thank you for tuning in and for your great questions. Yeah. Should we record in 4K or HD? Yeah, so that's a great question. If you have a camera that can record that high quality, of course, go ahead. But HD is very good. 4K, I'm not sure for language documentation would be any more useful than HD, right? So if you're looking at cameras, it's not necessary to get the most expensive, most fancy camera, right? Because at a certain level, I think that, yeah, it'll be more beautiful, right? But it might not be worth the cost, right? And it might be harder to use. Another question, what are good cheap audio recorders? Yeah, so there are a whole lot out there. At the lowest price range, these companies like Tascam and Zoom do make some handheld recorders like this one that are not super expensive. But that you can answer that question if you are able to look up just audio recorders on sale. You can get them used. But there are many, many options, and basically it comes down to whatever is available to you, right? If you can find something like this that's not too expensive, even if it's not as good as the huge recorders, right, it still is great. This is very good, and it can make a nice quality recording. Same as this one, right? These are both good. This is a Zoom recorder, and this is a Tascam. Functionally, they're very similar, right? They just look very different. Okay? Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in again. Thank you. Is it better to record two people in conversation about a subject or recording a single person? Yeah, I wouldn't say that either is necessarily better, right? It just depends on who you're talking to. If you are talking to one speaker and they want to tell you about something, they want to tell you a story, or they want to tell you what they think about something, that's not any worse than if two people want to have a conversation about something, right? They're both very valuable in their own ways, right? So in the first case, you will have a document of a person telling a story or telling you about their opinion or something. And you will also be able to see what it's like when one person is talking to someone else, right? You see what it's like when somebody's giving a speech or doing an interview. But if you have multiple people and they're talking together, that's also very valuable, because then you see how people interact in conversation in that language, right? So if you can, it's great to get both. If you have to choose between one, I wouldn't say that either one is better than the other. Yeah, I'd say that yeah, whatever the speakers want to do for recording, and whatever is the most available for you to record, right? Because like I was saying, the most important thing is to record the language, right? So it's good to try to make it as good as we, and to record as much as we can. But as long as we're recording the language, then this is a great first step, right? Yeah, thank you. Very good question. Thank you for your wonderful questions. There are a few more minutes if there are any more questions before we sign off. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in. I hope that this presentation was interesting and informative. And even after the live webinar is over, please feel free to comment with questions or comments about the presentation. So wait another minute to see if there are any other questions. But it's so great to see people from all around the world tuning in. I'm really glad that we can do something like this where so many people can interact. Yeah, no, thank you guys. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll make sure I didn't miss any questions. Yeah, really awesome questions. Thank you guys for asking and for stimulating this conversation and moving it in these directions. Okay, so it looks like that is about it for the questions. Like I said, please feel free to post on the page at any time, and please tune in again next week for the next live session, which will be about metadata, file management, and archiving. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Oh, last thing. Yes, the slides are available. They are on the Facebook page, and they are called Workshop 3. Right? Yes. Yes. So they are on this page. You should be able to find them. Okay? Yes, Unit 3. All right. Thank you very